I'm going to so those of you who are here for the first time, just follow along, do whatever you can. Don't worry if things go over your head. Just take it in and be relaxed. Follow my voice to the best of your ability. Bring yourself to a lovely seated position if you are in a chair. Some people will want to lie down. Some people, because of body challenges, pain issues, might need to stand up. Whatever position you are in, it is fine. It is acceptable. We want you to be comfortable so that you can actually be where you are for the next, say, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, so that you don't get uncomfortable. And by the way, that applies to your sleeping as well, because you're going to get into a position and you're probably going to pretty much stay there for the duration of your sleep. So you want to make sure that you are comfortable and that you're not going to be challenged in any way. So for the opening here, let's just sit in an upright position with a rather dignified spine if you can, and just bring your attention initially to how you're breathing. Just notice it. Don't do anything. Don't change anything. And feel your body in a sense of sort of awakeness, but relaxed. And start to intentionally notice where your breath is. And if you can, for this opening experience, close your eyes, let your eyelids relax down. If you can't close them, it's fine. Just gaze at something about 45-degree angle down and keep your gaze there. It's a focused attention. And you want to put a smile on your face. Just let the corners of your mouth turn up if you can. And bring yourself to a stillness, an initial kind of stillness. And just let my words float over you before we go into our first meditation. Continue to come back to noticing your breath. As we said, Musar is Jewish mindfulness, and it refers to the spiritual perspective on the things that make each of us who we are, our traits, our characters, our personalities. Also, it's the mindful discipline of transformative practices from the 18th century. Reb Nachman of Breslov encouraged the practice of hitbodedut, a silence for communing with God, or even talking to yourself. He would often talk about being in a field under the stars and just talking to nature, perhaps. And this is a form of meditation. And it's when we engage in this activity that we're actually engaging in an ancient Jewish practice. And I'm going to read you something from the Musar Institute, which I thought was so lovely. Through the study and practice of Musar, students balance the characteristics or traits of their nefesh, and nefesh is the soul. And nefesh causes the light within us sometimes to dim. In Hebrew, the word for traits of the nefesh is midot. Some midot are humility, patience, gratitude, compassion, order, honor, silence, truth. And tonight, we're going to focus on the midah called gevura, which is wise boundaries. Last week, we did the midah of chesed, which is loving kindness. And we related it to being loving kind to our minds and bodies to assist us in getting constructive rest. So continue to breathe, continue to notice where your breath is in your body. Tonight, we're going to learn a couple of what we call intentional breathing practices that mediate stress and anxiety. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes giving you my brief but very spectacular take on the reasons that stress, both in the body and the mind, short circuit sometimes our sleep. The experience of stressors is the experience of being a human being. We live in a world in which we are constantly experiencing stressors. Stressors can be anything from the alarm clock ringing to the phone ringing to the red light that you didn't see to the spilling of the water when you didn't want to spill it. Or it can even be silence. Silence can sometimes upset people, and that's considered a stressor. And things happen to the brain when we are stressed by a stressor. And it can be, as I said, from either an anxiety type of a stress, or it can come from calm as well. So what happens in the body is the adrenaline and the cortisol start spewing out. The heart pumps faster. The body is reacting. And sometimes we don't have any control over it. It's going into what I call code red, which is the sympathetic nervous system. We don't want to be in code red when we go to sleep. We don't want to be fleeing, which is the fight or flight. We don't want to be in that state. We want to be in the parasympathetic nervous system, the possum, which is the state of rest and repose. And we sometimes have to create it. If we don't have a good ritual around going to bed and allowing ourselves the nurturing of sleep, good sleep habits, then it will take some practice. So we want to encourage tonight breathing techniques that will activate your parasympathetic nervous system, your code blue. And I will talk a little later about some things that you can actually do, some habits that you can get into to make that happen even more easily. So right now that you've been spending a few minutes listening and just noticing your breathing, I want to bring your attention again to your body and to your position. And let's make sure that you're stable wherever you are. And I want us to practice, if we can, with our eyes closed, but you don't have to. You can open your eyes. Just for the moment, the first part of this is when you breathe in, bring your shoulders up to your ears. And then pause. And then breathe out and let your shoulders down very gently. And again, breathe in and bring your shoulders up to your ears. And then pause for a second. And when you breathe out, just let the shoulders come down. And you will notice that each time you do this, the shoulders may go lower. So try one more time. Intentional breath in, shoulders up, hold, and then just breathe out and let them down slowly. Now we're going to add some things to this exercise. So the first thing we're going to add is we're going to breathe in, hold it, and we're going to breathe instead. I don't know where you were breathing out before, but this time we're going to breathe out the mouth. So breathe in, big breath in through your nose, pause, and now out through your mouth long as you can. And let the shoulders drop. And again, in through your nose, up to your ears, shoulders, pause, and a long breath out your mouth. Now we're going to add something to that. When you let your breath out of your mouth, you're going to say the word ah, A-H, but you're going to do it like a real sigh. In other words, it's a combination of breath and sound. So you'll hear me do it and you can follow. Take a breath in through your nose, shoulders up to your ears, hold, and ah. Make a real sound, a nice ah. And try it again. Breathe in through your nose, shoulders up to your ears, pause, and then ah. And let the ah go for as long as you can. Make it really long this last time. And then when the air is all gone out of your mouth, just stay there for a few seconds. So breathe in through your nose, shoulders up to your ears, pause, and then a long ah. Ah. And push all the air out and come back to your normal position and normal breathing. And just relax. Feel where you are. Feel your body. Can you sense any sound or any sensation in your body right now after doing that exercise? And just notice it. Don't do anything. Don't change anything. Just notice. And see if you notice a little bit sense of calm. And bring your attention now back to your breathing, your normal breathing, and just notice it. And notice if you feel it somewhere, like your belly or your chest or your shoulders or in your skin. Is your skin breathing? Just be with your breath. The breath is the magic potion for relaxation, for parasympathetic nervous system activation. And that's what we're doing tonight. So just take some time right here to just be with that experience and noticing how you are right here, right now, in this moment. So our midah this evening is Gevura, wise boundaries. And what in the world does that have to do with meditation and sleep and breathing? The answer is that in order for us to have good health, to be balanced, and not to let the stressors get us in reactivity, but to have a sense of balance and confidence that we can mediate the stressors, we need to be in touch with our breathing. The first thing that happens in stress is most of us don't breathe. I know that sounds silly, but in fact, if we examine ourselves, we would find we're tense, we're holding on, and we're really not breathing well. So, boundaries. It's about being able to be willing to make the space in your life when you feel those feelings, overwhelmed, stressed, afraid that you're not going to sleep, or you woke up in the middle of the night from a sleep and now you're anxious because you won't get back to sleep. Though that's all stress response. We need to be aware of stopping, taking a long, luxurious breath, and just noticing what's happening to us. We notice in the moment as we are doing right now. This is what we're practicing right now. You are sitting still. You've nowhere to go, nothing to do for these few moments. You have set a boundary for these 45 minutes or this hour to be here with yourself. That is your gift to yourself. That's a boundary. And we need to learn to do it so that we can be in a state of constructive rest when we sleep. And sleeping itself, as I said last week, is not always as important as the body's ability to rest. So when there's a feeling of pressure or stress, we can stop and we can do the first thing we just did, which is the shoulders to the ears, and start the breathing. That is called an intentional breathing practice, and doing the sigh with the ah. Now there's a second practice that I'd like to teach you, and I would suggest you continue, if you can, to keep your eyes closed. There is something about that experience that can be helpful. If you cannot, no matter. This is for you. There's no right way, there's no wrong way, there's just your way. So take a few moments to recalibrate. Just come back to presence in your seat. Notice where you are. Relax your forehead. Relax your jaw. Relax your toes. Relax your fingers. Relax your belly. Relax your tongue. And just be with that for a few seconds. If you find yourself nodding off, it means that your body needs rest. Don't worry. Do the best you can to be in a state of wakeful relaxation so that you don't miss what we're doing. But then you can always, hopefully, have the recording if you want to review. So our first or second intentional practice is called, it has several names. It's called in yoga, the calming breath. In other circles, it's sometimes referred to as the rhythm breath. And it's used in the mindfulness-based stress reduction technique to actually lower the blood pressure, so that when you're in a stress response, you have a tool. So this is a step-by-step, and we're going to practice it, and then I'm going to give you some time to do it on your own. So it also can be labeled the 1 to 2 breathing technique. We take an in-breath on a count of 1, and we take an out-breath on the count of 2. However, that increases. It's incremental. 2 to 4, 3 to 6. And the purpose of this, so you know physiologically, is that when we're going to breathe again in through the nose and out through the mouth. When we breathe out through the mouth, the physiology is that we connect to the vagus nerve, which is the one that goes from the brain all the way down the body. And it is the one that helps the blood flow to calm. And when we're in stress, the blood flow is not necessarily calm. So here's how you do the breath. You breathe in for the count of 1 through your nose and out 2 through your mouth. So let's just practice that one for the moment. Breathe in and breathe out 2. Breathe in 1 and out count 2. And make the out breath actually twice as long. So however long your in breath is, see if you can actually focus on making the out breath twice as long. So go ahead and practice it a few times. In and out. And in and out. And now you do it to your own rhythm. And you might put your tongue behind the bottom teeth. That's another anchor so that you focus, you stay focused. And after you've done several, just stop and go back to your normal breathing. So come back to your normal breath if you haven't already. Just be with that for a few minutes, few seconds rather. And now we're going to change the count. We're going to go in for 2 and out for 4. So you do this at your pace. Take an in breath for 2, whatever that is, and out twice as long for 4. And practice that a few times, and then come back to your normal breathing. And I might want to add one thing. I don't want you efforting. There's no effort here. You're not tensing up to make the breath happen. Just let it happen naturally. And if you can't extend the count, that's fine. Do what you can. The important thing is twice as long out through your mouth. And when you've done that several times, just again, return to your normal breath And just notice where you are now. The point of this is to do it as quietly as you can. No, as I said, no efforting. Because imagine, very often I do this in bed if I need help to get to sleep or back to sleep. And it's a very quiet breathing technique. So let's try one more round, but we're going to extend the count one more time. We're going to make it 3 in, count 3 as you take it in through your nose, and then 6 on the out breath. And do whatever's comfortable for you. As I said, this is quiet. Very, very quiet. So begin with your count of 3. 1, 2, 3, and out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in 2, 3, and through your mouth, out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in through your nose, 2, 3, and out through your mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just pause and go back to your normal breath. And just see where you are now. See if you notice any changes in the way you feel from the time we started to now. And just be with your normal breath and notice how you feel. Just so you know, physiologically, we are bringing oxygen to the brain when we breathe in this way, well, when we breathe in, period, and we are letting out carbon dioxide, the stale, dark air that we don't need, and we do need to feed the brain oxygen. That's how the brain begins to mediate the stressors. And all this, by the way, I don't know if you think it's woo-woo or what your response might be, but it's now medical science. We have the science to show that this actually does happen. They can image brains that are in stress. They image brains that are in meditation or contemplation, and we can see what happens to the brain when the breath begins to be steady and calm. So this technique you can use anytime, actually, anywhere, but it does work really well if you're restless in trying to sleep or to go to sleep. It can be very helpful. I've done it for many, many years. We're going to now move to another breathing technique, which is not dissimilar. You're going to find that these are somewhat related because they all activate what I was telling you physiologically. We are bringing in the oxygen, and when we breathe out the mouth, we're calming. That's the connection to the vagus nerve. So this third intentional breath is called a whispered ah. So we did in the beginning, we did with our shoulders up to our ears, and we did an audible ah. And sound, by the way, is a very wonderful way to expel anxiety, making sound. That's another subject for another meditation. So in this breath, the whispered ah, it's a relaxation technique, and it stabilizes your breathing if you're in stress. And it does definitely bring relaxation. So think about a whisper. A whisper is barely audible. So just try right now to say the word ah in such a tiny whisper that if anybody was in the room, they couldn't hear you, and you could barely hear yourself. Just practice. Say it a few times. The lips should be barely parted. It's almost like there's no movement in your mouth, there's no movement in your throat, there's just this little whisper. And again, your tongue could be resting in the against the bottom teeth. Now see if we can take a breath in through the nose and pause and think about, and this is requiring a little thought here, letting your breath out through your mouth by saying this whispered ah, so that the breath is really barely, you can barely feel it. So let's try one of two of those. Breathe in through your nose and pause. And now, very gently, whisper the out breath in an ah. And let it go as long as you have the breath. Let the ah go. If it's short, doesn't matter. And try it again. Breathe in through your nose, pause, and out with a whisper. And now see how long you can make the in-breath, and make sure that the ah, the whisper, is at least twice as long, if not 3 or 4 times as long as the in-breath. So let's experiment with that. Take an in-breath through your nose. Pause. And now really long out through the ah. And when you're at the end, just stop, pause, and try it again. Breathe in, big in-breath through your nose, but with not effort. Just take in as much as you can. Gently. Pause. And now really long out your mouth, whispering the ah. So I'm going to give you some time to practice, like in the calming breath, 1 to 2 breath. And you can add a count here if you want to, if it's helpful, but you don't have to. The whole idea of this one is slow motion. So softer and slower. The softer and slower you are, the better it works. The less movement you have, the better it is. So all around, it's a very gentle, calm experience. So I'd like you to practice and practice increasing, as I said, the amount of air you let out, and then pause and start again. So do it a few times. You can do these in rounds of 3 and then go back to your normal breath and then start again. That's the recommended way to practice. So I'll give you one more chance to practice a round of 3 times. At this point, you may only feel your chest or your belly rising, and the rest of you has become pretty calm. So, as I just said, your body should feel much more still than it did when we started, unless you already came to this experience feeling very relaxed. And this is, in fact, the practice of Hitbodedut. I'm going to share with you as you just sit here noticing, nurturing whatever feeling you have now that might be different than when you started. Notice your breath, your normal breathing. Notice how things feel, any sensations, where your thoughts are right now. Where have they gone? And I'll share with you a reading from The Empty Chair, Finding Hope and Joy from Reb Nachman, of Bretzlaff. Make it a daily habit to seclude yourself in Hitbodhidut meditation. Express your innermost thoughts and feelings, and you can do it to God, to your nature, to whatever is comfortable for you, in a language that you are most comfortable with. And you can have these conversations with the universe as if the universe was your very best friend, or God, or the Holy One. Even if all you can say is help, it's still very good. Just repeat over and over. Just keep practicing. And as we learn these techniques for calming ourselves, we will have tools so that we can mediate and give ourselves the opportunity of good boundaries. When we recognize that there's stress, we say, oh, it's time for a breath, a luxurious breathing practice. And this that we worked on tonight is very helpful for sleep, either when you're first going to sleep or if you've been interrupted. Or even if during the day you need to stop, things are overwhelming, things are not going right, your thoughts are out of control. This is really powerful. So before we close, I just want to talk about the practice. Before I bring you out of the experience, we must remember that the practice of midah, of the midot, is a practice. And it doesn't just happen. So I hope that you will take these with you and use them wisely, setting boundaries for yourself when you need to take care of yourself and have really good rest. And as I always do at the end of a practice, I am grateful for all of you who came this evening, for your courage to explore your relationship with yourself, for knowing yourself just a little bit better, and for being willing to make peace with your mind and your body and your spirit. So thank your mind and your body for what they offered you, and honor the stillness that you were able to achieve. And treasure your spirit for its willingness. And you might repeat after me with your eyes closed, and then I will ring the bell to bring us out. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I have the courage to set good boundaries for health and well-being. May I be safe and free from danger. May I be peaceful and at ease. And may we send blessings for all beings to be safe and free from suffering. and take this into your evening, with you into your week, and know that it's always available to you. It just takes a little bit of practice. So when I ring the bell, I will stop the recording, but come out of this slowly. Just bring yourself back very slowly, take a drink, and just sit for a moment.